me, don't take me somewhere you can be. So let me just start out by saying I know it's been a really long time since I've kind of talked on this channel and also just talked in general about weddings and about what's going on in our lives. And part of that is just not really knowing what I wanted this channel to be, what we wanted this channel to be. Part of the problem with everything going on as a wedding vendor in general is there's sort of this assumption that we're all just kind of raking in the dough and then sitting back on our laurels. But the reality is most of the time I am so busy editing or trying to get more work that I just really cannot give my attention to all of these different projects. And being a perfectionist, a people pleaser, I think I tend to have this mindset of, I just need to get this done. I just need to get this done. It needs to be the most perfect possible thing. But I always like to tell people done is better than perfect. So take this as me reminding myself done is better than perfect. And maybe just sitting down and talking to the camera and being real with you guys is a better way for me to just honestly get things off my chest, talk about what's going on in the wedding industry, and encourage you as you plan your wedding, because truly who I want this channel to be for is not just for couples, obviously, because I know I have creative friends who also will watch this, but it's for the people who, regardless whether you're planning, regardless whether you're in that stage of life, regardless whether you're a wedding vendor or not, you can kind of stay behind the curtain and see the heart and the effort that goes into it, and also sees really what am I investing in? Who am I choosing? What am I choosing? How am I choosing to craft a day that is meaningful to me in a way that's significant? So hopefully as 2026 goes on, I'm able to give more attention to just the YouTube channel and talking about crafting your wedding and talking about what it is to be a wedding vendor and all of that fun stuff. I truly do think all of this matters, and it's kind of why I want to talk about today's subject, which I think is somewhat taboo, because I don't think you're going to find a lot of wedding vendors who would admit to what I'm about to say. But I don't want to do Taylor Swift's wedding. Now, let me be clear here. I'm very aware of the fact that I am nowhere in the level of Taylor Swift even considering us, okay? When it comes to luxury, there's here, and we're probably somewhere you can't see. So I'm very aware that's not something I'd even have to ever think about or consider. So don't let this be a wow,
she thinks she could do Taylor Swift's wedding, oh my gosh.
What I think is more important as I'm talking through this is, and how it's probably going to be applicable for most people, is I think wedding vendors in general and the wedding industry right now is dealing with a lot because we look like we just want the biggest package, the most money spent, over excess, over consumption, yada 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 yada. And look, don't get me wrong, design and creative stuff is never cheap. And if you're creative, you get very excited and very enthusiastic very quickly about the kind of fun ideas that you can throw at the wall when it comes to wedding planning. I'm guilty of this. I know that most couples are guilty of this. This is why you see people tend to go over budget with weddings, because they just look at something and they think it's really cool and they're like, oh my god, I have to have that for my wedding. And suddenly they end up being, $5,000 to $10,000 over what they originally planned for their wedding. I'm not unaware of the fact that this isn't just a wedding vendor problem. This is just a buyer problem and a creatives problem in general, and we all tend to get FOMO when we look at really fun, cool wedding stuff. But that having been said, what I think is really important when I talk about why I personally wouldn't want to do Taylor Swift's wedding is not whether I think it's going to be pretty or whether I want to be a It's not about whether I want to be participatory in overconsumption or something that's going to be hyper celebrity. It's not even necessarily a matter of me not thinking I could live up to it. I personally have a certain kind of clientele. We have a certain kind of clientele. If you've been following this channel for any amount of time, if you've been seeing the videos that we put out and we post, you can tell our clientele want the candid, the messy moments. They want that moment where they accidentally messed up in their vows and they totally screwed up something, but it was hilarious. They want that raw reaction to their partner seeing their bird skull earrings and it's amazing, or seeing, your best friend do a dance with your dog at your wedding, whatever the heck it is. We're here for the weird and the different, and that's not always popular. In fact, I would say that while a lot of people really love it, we can't avoid having people who will respond saying something is cringe, saying something's not really a real wedding, saying something shouldn't be at weddings, etc., etc., etc. And you know what? I can't change people's mind at the end of the day. I really can't. And I'd love for people to look at the work that we do and think,
oh my god, that's the kind of wedding I'd like to be at.
But the truth is, weddings, like anything else, are a matter of a reflection of one's own personal style. So when we talk about Taylor Swift, when we talk about those kinds of things when we talk about whether or not Taylor Swift's wedding is something I'd want to do. I think a lot of creatives are just thinking of it as going to be design heavy, it's going to be fabulous, it's going to have a budget that actually allows for creative work. And while all of those things are true, as people who really just try and lean into a much more personable and deeply invested sense of story, Taylor Swift's really good at branding. So if you're thinking about doing something creative and out of the box, I can understand why her wedding and the idea of doing her wedding would be appealing. The thing is, I don't think that we would probably match what a Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce kind of wedding would look like. And that's okay. The truth of the matter is the couples who come to us are looking for something very specific, and we're looking for something very specific when we think about the couples we want to work with. And that's a good thing. And I think that's the most applicable thing that you can take away from this video. It's a common thought when we go into wedding planning that we're just looking for the best deal, or that we're looking for the person who checks off X, Y, and Z box without necessarily thinking about your story as a couple and how it's going to be told. I see a lot of couples looking for someone who edits, dark and moody, bright and airy, blah, 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 but they don't necessarily think about how does that story get told through the photos? How does that story unfold when I look at their videos? What about their work? And look, there's no right way to photo video at your wedding. There's no right way to tell your story at your wedding. Maybe you were a college sweetheart, so you lean into that and you have elements of your college days or the interests that you two have as a couple, the nerdy games that you like, the movies that you love to watch. Or maybe, as a couple, when you think about the future moving forward, this feels like a very adult decision. So you want a lot of elegance and you want a lot of ribbons and bows. And sure, maybe you are nerds and maybe you like that kind of stuff, but it's small, simple touches. It's a custom tie that has very, very laid back, subtle Star Wars vibes. There is no right way to show off your personality on your wedding day, but I think the couples who tend to find us and love us are the couples who want to embrace that personality and go all out on it and want to go ham on it, and not because elegance isn't going ham or not because elegance isn't significant, but because ultimately at the end of the day, our couples come to us 99% of the time and they're telling us we're awkward on camera, but here's our story, we love this and we love that, and we're incorporating this nerdy fandom into our day, or we're incorporating our pets into our day. And those are the kinds of things where we're like, okay, that's not just any detail. That is a detail that carries so much significance and weight for who they are. We are excited to capture that and incorporate that. And not just that, we're excited to incorporate that because, again, any good wedding professional is going to do the same thing. But that the way the story is told through photo video, it says something about who they are. Music video style wedding films have never been our thing. When you look at a wedding film and you see a slow-mo shot and the bride looks elegantly over her shoulder and the wind's in their hair and everything's super slow-mo, that's super pretty, that's super nice. But our couples, I'll start off a wedding film with the couple talking about something really stupid and random and giggling under their breath, and that's what they love. They love seeing that side of them. They don't want to see themselves in the most perfect light. They want to see themselves in the most real light. So when we say that we're not doing Taylor Swift's wedding, it's not because Taylor Swift's wedding is below us or because we don't think it's going to be beautiful or creative or any of those things. We say it because we think when it comes to hiring any wedding vendor, but especially photo video, we want to work with the couples who are really truly looking for the most real versions of themselves to show up on the day. And that's something that I think no one can really answer what it actually looks like. There's no one version of what the most real and the most perfect version of your day looks like. We want you to show up in a way where you don't feel like you have to perform, where you don't feel like it's going to be about a magazine cover or about the photos it's going to go on every single possible bridal publication's Instagram. What we want is for you to basically be able to look back on your day and say, oh my God, that was so dorky. You remember that? Oh my gosh, look at that person. What is he doing? It's remembering those moments in which the most genuine parts of your personality, your family's personality, your friends' personalities, where all of that comes out. At the end of the day, weddings are one of those rare times in your life where people will truly, genuinely come out and say how they feel, and they will talk about what you mean to them. And so it's really important to just lean into that, lean into who you guys are as a couple, and embrace that. And hey, if you're looking for something that feels a little bit more goofy, feels a little bit more off kilter, just leans into your personality, we would love to be a part of your day. But truly, regardless of whether you choose to bring us into your day or not, we want you to be inspired. We want you to look at our wedding films. We want you to look at these videos. And we want you to just look at this stuff and think about, okay, how do I want to create a day that marks such a significant chapter in my life. How do I want to look back on that day? And am I giving myself the freedom to do it in the way that I want to? Or am I restricting myself by a certain set of rules that I feel like I have to follow? Again, this is sort of more of a rambly video, but this was something we wanted to talk about back when everything came out with the whole engagement, and it never really happened. And I think right now is just a really good time to start talking again on the channel, what with, you know, it being the middle of booking season and everyone getting engaged, and really starting to sit down and think, okay, really, what do I want for my wedding day? I think, again, the most important thing that you can think about is this what you want? Is this what you and your partner want? Are you creating a day that truly reflects who you guys are? And I just want to encourage you guys to embrace that, to do things your own way. So, yeah. Ciao, belas.